Key opposition political parties and several civil society organizations laid the groundwork today for a joint program on the basis of common goals, including the abolition of the executive presidency and the reinstatement of the 17th Amendment. A joint media briefing was held in Pitakotte today with the participation of the key stakeholders to this endeavour. The convener of the National Movement for Social Justice, Venerable Madhulwave Sobitathera, opposition leader Rani Wickremesinghe, Democratic Party leader Sarath Fonseca and frontline leaders of several political parties participated at this media briefing. Several civil society groups, including the University Teachers for a Just Society movement and the Free Media movement, were also represented at this media briefing.
In which country do they have a constitution that has been rejected by the country? The entire country is united in calling on the president, who has 2 more years in his term, to abolish the executive presidency and transfer executive powers to parliament as promised. If this government does not fulfill this demand, then at the upcoming presidential election, in order to have a common victory for the people, we will put forward a common opposition candidate acceptable to all, while maintaining the agendas of the individual political parties and work towards the victory of the policy rather than the individual. Abolishing the executive presidency, reinstating the 17th Amendment and changing the electoral system. We are all preparing to put forward a common candidate accepted by all, with the promise that this task will be completed in 6 months and that power will be transferred to Parliament. This government is the people. It consists of the Samasamaja Party, the Communist Party and the Democratic Front. Many who raise their hands against this constitution are in the government. We invite all of them to join with us. We did not have a common program. This symbolic meeting marks an agreement on a common platform, and we are going to take the next step. We have all agreed, in addition to the abolition of the executive presidency and the formation of a government accountable to Parliament, to reinstate the 17th Amendment and introduce a proportional and first-past-the-post system to replace the preferential voting system. Our first attempt to abolish the executive presidency will be through Parliament and through the government. If this can be done through the draft 19th Amendment, then we should adopt it. If this does not happen, then we will need to think about the next step. If we do not demonstrate and demand a free and fair election, our collective will not be successful. The President knows that the only way to suppress public will is to use the state mechanisms, to use government power and state finance to ensure that it will not be a free and fair election. A presidential election does not mean deciding on whether the incumbent president should be given a mandate as per public will or not. What should be questioned here is whether the state mechanism and limitless power can be used to change the result of the election. If we are going forward as a collective, if we are to put forward a common candidate, then we must know all of these things. We are prepared to take to the streets to uphold the people's power. It is much better to take to the streets before an election and ensure these rights than to take to the streets after an election. The policy of our party at present is not simply the abolition of the executive presidency, but that its limitless power is harmful to the country. Powers have been granted in order to work in the interest of the country. The problem in our country is that although powers have been vested, they are not used in the best interest of the country. The president works for his own interest. That is why we say that there must be a referendum on whether it should be abolished or not. As a person who has experience being the common candidate, I can say that coming forward as the common candidate is similar to walking towards the gallows. It is a life and death battle. You could lose everything. When you are the candidate, everyone flocks around you, but when the job goes wrong, there is nobody. When you are imprisoned, you are alone. So I say to the person who accepts the challenge of being the common candidate that because of the political culture and the mentality of our politicians, this cycle could be repeated. If the wrong person is chosen, our party will not pledge ourselves. We must definitely look into the person's history, their competence, their mentality, their character credence and their commitment to the country. We can only rally around a candidate if these conditions are fulfilled in keeping with our conscience.
Former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumarthunga issued a special statement on the occasion of this meeting, which was read out at the media briefing.
I hold in high esteem the goal of having broad-based changes to the political culture and governance in our country. It has been stated that the common vision of the powerful collective that arose today is the abolition of the executive presidency, the re-empowerment of the 17th Amendment, democratic governance and the empowerment of the rights of the citizenry. I believe that this new collective has the strength and courage to bring forth humaneness, democracy, respect for human rights and an ethical society. I extend my fullest support and my blessings to this collective and extend my best wishes.
ආශිර්වාදාත්මක උණුසුම් සුභාශිංසන පළ කර සිටිමි.
මගේ පෞද්ගලික මතය නම් අතීතයේ වෙච්ච දේවල් හොඳට සලකා
My personal opinion is that incidents in the past should be considered at depth, and without digging up history, we must leave aside individual agendas and adopt a common agenda for the country. This is where we can do it. What matters to us more than the person is the road that will be taken. I believe we have come to a position today. I have come here to make a policy decision and to forge ahead with the policies rather than decide on the person.
කියන එකට වඩා ප්‍රතිපත්තියම තීරණයක් අරගෙන ප්‍රතිපත්තිය හොඳ වැඩ කොටසක් අපිට ඉස්සරහට ගෙනියන්න.